Unfortunately, we're talking about UFC 304, one of the worst cards ever. It was so bad that Dana White went in on all the fighters and saying that they actually don't deserve bonuses. The only person that I could say that showed up and really made a good fight
Was Patty.
was Patty Pimblett beating Green. And a lot of people had Green beating him, but he ended up taking it to him. Shout out our boy, Real Good _ Doty. Watched the fights of him. And we watched even some of the prelims. The McCain versus is it Brasso or Brazil? It's funny because she's from Brazil, and then the last name is the same thing. But that was a good fight. It looked like that she was going to knock out McCann in the first round, but it ended up going the whole distance. So McCann fought through it. And then Allen knocked out Chickadees. I know that's not how you say his name, but he got beat like a chickadee. Mm-hmm. And then Duncan Rodriguez was there.
I like the top.
The dude got his head split.
Or Aspinall versus
Blades. Yeah. That Wade fight was a ripoff.
He got a bonus. Tommy got a bonus. Only two people got a bonus.
Aspinall, they want him to fight John Jones now.
Yeah,
and
but everybody wants to fight John Jones. Like Pereira, the person Pereira wants to fight John Jones. He wants to fight John Jones.
Yeah, we've been watching a lot more UFC. We're not UFC fanatics, so excuse us if we don't know every detail about all the fighters. But we're coming along, and we're just giving you our opinion as general UFC watchers. But yeah, I thought Blades was gonna do more, and it looked like he just slipped, and the dude just pounced on.
Oh yeah, that was
started,
it.
Like punching him in the back of the head. When I watched it live, I thought he slipped, but when they showed the replay, he actually I think caught him with the left, and it he tripped up over. He wobbled back and then tripped over his own feet. And then when he fell to the ground, Aspinall just jumped on his back and started just punching him in the side of the head. And the ref with the heavyweights, they call it quick because they do a lot of damage, and they just called it right away. So it was really a letdown. I thought it was going to be way more of a fight, but I mean Aspinall did enough to stumble him, and then he took advantage.
I can't believe when you fall down, why would you fall down with your face to the mat? Like you would think you'd fall. If you stumbling backwards, just fall on your back. And then if he come up to you, just kick him.
Yeah, while you're facing him.
Yeah, just kick him and
have your back turned. You can't do it.
Yeah, you have your back turned. You can't do because he just looked lost as soon as his back was turned. And the other dude just hopped on top of him. He only hit him 2 or 3 times, and the ref's like, "That's it," because he already knew it was a wrap. And then moving on to the next fight,
Muhammad versus Edwards. Man, this fight. Apparently, they had a bad blood between them because when they fought back in the day, Edwards poked Muhammad in the eye. And it ended up being a no contest fight. So he finally got his shot to take at Edwards. And looks like he took his shot and he won it. Unfortunately, it's one of the most boring fights I've ever seen. He was wrestling him the whole time and just won because he had ground control. And then in the last minute or 30 seconds of the last round, Edwards ended up getting on a good position and breaking Muhammad's nose. And pretty much spreading blood everywhere. But they ruled that the ground control got more points than breaking someone's nose.
Even though when he was on the ground, he wasn't doing nothing. He grabbed him, he put him on the ground, and he just held him.
Apparently, in high school they do wrestling where it's no striking. It's just how
many times you take him to the ground,
how many times you take him to the ground, and how long you had ground control. So apparently that's a part of UFC. So even though UFC, we try to think of that as the realest form of fighting, it still has wrestling elements in it. And you get points for doing wrestling moves, like having someone on the ground where you're on their back. So, that's why you see there's, a lot of times different fighters. There's people that are mainly strikers, either punching or kicking, and they just want to knock someone out. And there's people that are wrestlers and just want to get someone to the ground and get ground control to a way to win, or get them where they could get them in a hold. A choke or an arm bar or a triangle, some type of triangle lock. So it just depends. Are you a wrestler or are you a fighter? And I don't know. I feel like it's kind of weird because it's almost like when you have two different guys go against each other, it's almost like they're playing two different sports.
True.
And it's should you almost but the thing is, if you only want punching and kicking, then I guess that's what, kickboxing?
Yeah, it's Muay Thai. Was it Muay Thai? One's jiu-jitsu, one's Muay Thai, and then you got boxing, you got wrestling, styles.
What's funny is pro wrestling isn't like wrestling. It's like wrestling they do in UFC, like jiu-jitsu type stuff.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, and it really just looks like when you're a striker, like when you're known for like throwing punches and everything, then it's like okay, when you're known for throwing punches, that's when you go on to they learning how to wrestle. But then if
That's
you
when someone coming up the ranks at wrestling always wants to go against you because they're
exactly
like, oh, I won't let this guy strike me. I'm just gonna wrestle him, and he's not that great at wrestling, so I'm just gonna whoop him in wrestling and win the match.
exactly, and then like it's like when if you're good at kicking, then all they learn is how to like all they learned like they just suck. If you're good at kicking, you just suck at ground game. Like your ground game is just trash. And then it seems like if your ground game is trash, all they have to do is like if they can't beat you up, they just gonna slam you to the ground the whole time. And I guess if you can win with like the most takedowns, even though you're not doing anything with the takedowns, you just because to me like when you take somebody down and they just sitting there just chilling and like the whole time they just like you trying to get them in a triangle like and they just moving your hand, but like you just laying there. Oh, it's a minute left. I can just chill for a minute and just move his hand. Like you ain't doing nothing.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. And it's you mean
And the ref should have to stop you. Like once you're on the holding someone on the ground for like, and they just like you trying to give them a triangle, like they just move your hand.
There's
should be time limit.
I've seen them do it, but they don't do it that much because it's like if there's not really any movement, they'll just say, "All right, guys, we're going to stand you up and reset." But they always do just enough for them not to do that.
I hate that.
Like you said, like, "Oh, I'm punching. Oh, look, I'm punching, so don't reset us." And it's just like, nah, man. If I was Dana White, I would honestly like. I understand getting someone in a move, but I think if you can't get them in a move in like 30 to 40 seconds, in a real fight, you're gonna elbow them in the crotch, you're gonna poach their eyes out. No, you're not gonna let someone get you in some type of little pressure point hold. That if you can't get someone where you're doing an arm bar or choke them out in 30, 40 seconds, it's reset every time.
Facts. That'd be a lot better.
I mean, the whole thing, sports at the end of the day is a business. And unfortunately, it's like you see in the NBA what sells tickets, dunking and 3-pointers. So that's what everyone does now. The kind of we've seen the mid-range fade away from the game. And with Dana White, running the UFC where he makes all the final decisions, he could put in rules like that. Just like they do in the NFL or any sport to make the game better, where they make it like the rules are favoring the offensive person. So they're going to be like the rules are going to favor like someone that's going to do like a real knockout rather than someone that's kind of win like by points. It feels like the guys that wrestle in UFC almost remind me of like Floyd Mayweather in boxing, where he would beat guys by like touching them and getting points, but he didn't have the power to knock anyone out. So he had to win all these fights, and even though he got way more points than the guy he beat had nothing wrong with him. And that's what I was saying. Like I was talking about the fight with Seth and Seth's friend, and we were talking about Edwards versus Muhammad. I'm like, he literally broke that dude's nose at the end of the fight, where he's gonna need like surgery to get his nose put back together. Like, why isn't that like 500 points? They should almost like have like a scale, like taking someone to the ground 5 points, having ground control for 30 seconds 5 points, breaking someone's nose 500 points. Like when you do like real damage, you get real points.
True.
But I'm not a UFC expert, so
Or like when you're the champion, like ain't no more of this. Oh yeah, he beat you because he just took you to the ground all the time. Like if it's not a majority decision or a knockout, the person that won the title needs, unless like they just did horrible, like they need to retain the title. But because now we got to watch a rematch of this. Now we have to watch the third fight.
Well, the thing that's with UFC is Dana White chooses all the fights. So now you don't even know if he's going to be like, oh, like this fight was so close it deserves a rematch. Because, in boxing, like if you're the champion, you can put in your contract if you lose, you're guaranteed a rematch. But you can't do that in UFC. Because Dana runs it like a dictatorship. But we're going to see, here's Dana's own thoughts about UFC 304.
You should just up them.
I think tonight showed that we should not. No. Upping them doesn't change anything. It doesn't make anybody fight any harder. It doesn't change anything. I'm not doing this again. Ever. Today was the last day that I'm doing that. Yeah. Not saying that in the future the bonuses couldn't get up, but I'm not going to be at a press conference and say 200, 300, fucking never again. Never again. So you can thank everybody on this card for that.
Thank everybody. 14 fights and 9 of them was.
Whoa.
Go back.
Let me go back. We weren't done yet.
14 fights, 9 of them was decision. So I mean, yeah, that you can't have that ratio. 14 fights and all 9 of them, only 5 of them actually win by submission or knockout. Yeah, you gonna end up just like boxing, boring. They're not gonna sell.
That's why sometimes they say that born boxers and fighting, that even though they're good or they have a good record, that they're not getting certain fights because they're like, hey, it's not worth it. When I fight you, I could only get this purse.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this amount of money that you're only bringing in. Like, this would be like a $50 million fight, where if I fight this other guy that, you know, would be a more electric fight, that might be a $100 million fight. So even though you're a good fighter and you got a good record, like, if you're not an exciting fighter, it's kind of hard to bring in that pay-per-view draw, like we're seeing with Shakur.
Yeah, basically, yeah, with Shakur, he's barely getting any fights. But they're saying that they're trying to get him to fight Tank. But we're going to take a look into that. But speaking
Tank's saying it's not even worth it.
But basically,
he's saying, you know, that the amount of money that guy brings in, they said it's not worth it. Like, I could possibly lose, and if I lose to this guy, I'm going to look like at a weenie, and I'm not going to make any money anyway, so what's the point?
But take it overseas. That's what a lot of these people were doing. Like UFC, they're doing a lot of events overseas. Boxing does things overseas. We about to go overseas. I mean,
America keeps on going.
They just sold out over almost 18K sold out tickets sold for this. I mean, that's real big. But they have a new fight. The next fight coming up is UFC 306 with Sugar Sean O'Malley and Marib. That he finna Marab. That's who gonna fight next. Marab. I mean, that's gonna be on September 14th, the Mexican Independence Day. They finna be sharing that along with Canelo. He finna be fighting Edgar. So I mean, hey, it's gonna be a big event in Las Vegas. I mean, that's gonna be the place crazy to be. With 2 fights in the same place in the same day.
You want Canelo to win. Canelo's the heart of Mexico, but then he's gonna be beating an Edgar. Like, Edgar is like token Mexico. So I don't know. They're like, hey, we're just gonna give you a generic Edgar to whoop up on.
And Shane O'Malley. I mean, they do a Mexican. UFC's doing Mexican Independent Day.
Yeah, Shane's Mexican.
Their 2 main. No, he's not. And their 2 main fights, none of them are Hispanic. I don't know. I forgot what Shane is. I gotta check that out. But comment down below how you feel about this UFC 304 match card. Was it worth it? Was it a waste of time? Do you think Jones and Tom?
It's not a waste of time if you are getting in on the pirate seas, if you know what I'm saying.
Hey,